What's up, everyone? Welcome to Lowered Expectations. Thanks for lowering your expectations and hanging out with me here. I do appreciate it. If you haven't seen my last video, which will be posted here, you're going to want to go watch that first. Otherwise, this one will not make any sense at all. This is basically going to be a three-part series, this one being part 3. The first one, I tried to run my diesel heater without a fuel pump. The second one, I tried to replace the ECU with some light bulbs and some other doodads. And in this one, I am going to be attaching the heater to my house and running it for about 24 hours. Because I'm not running it overnight, this is going to take 2 separate days. We are going to check to see how much fuel it consumes in that amount of time. We are also going to monitor the carbon monoxide, and we are going to check up on the fuel drip rate. No matter what numbers I say in this video, I would not recommend that you do this yourself, and I don't recommend that you try to match any of my numbers. Your fan isn't going to be turning the same speed, your dripper might not drip the same volume, so using these numbers is no guarantee that you're going to get the same results. Full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Big Drip Corporation and the Incandescent Lobbyist Group of America. We are trying to raise awareness to phase out fuel pumps and PWMs, all sorts of that electronic nonsense. So take this with a grain of salt, but I hope I can convince you that this is the way of the future. Hopefully it is clear that that is an attempt at humor, but a bunch of people asked me why I didn't just use a PWM and informed me that I could actually get them pretty cheap at all sorts of places on the internet. Asked me why I didn't just use a potentiometer because they were also really cheap. And I was asked why I didn't use some sort of a timer on the glow plug instead of switching it on and off. Well, as much as I would like to use those things, I didn't have them on hand, and so I just came up with a creative solution. I had some light bulbs lying around, and it turned out to work pretty well, and I think a lot of people were able to understand exactly what I was doing. I now have a wire coming out for a thermocouple that attaches to my multimeter so I can check to see what temperature the housing is. I have the fuel valve hooked up so I can meter the fuel more accurately, and I've got the wires taped around the motor so that they won't get pulled and damage the fan wire or the glow plug wire. At least that's the hope. All right, let's connect this to the battery, and we'll connect this to this lead and turn the switch on. There we go. Okay, we are currently drawing 1 amp. That is really low, but let's step it up to setting 2 with the fan. We are now at 2.5 amps, and the wire popped off. So we're gonna have to put it back on in a better spot. All right, let's try this again. I am afraid to blow this fuse. It's only good for 10 amps. We went from 1 to 4. Is that what we did? Yeah. All right, in setting 1 with the fan, we are at 1 amp. Setting 2, we are at 2.5 amps. 2.45 amps. Setting 3, let's see. Okay, that is not much at all. All right, let's check the voltage so we can get a more accurate watt reading. We are pulling 13.03 volts. 13.03 times 3.46. So we are pulling 45 watts. Cool. If we lower it down to setting 2, we are pulling, let's check the voltage again, because there's going to be maybe a voltage increase. All right, 13.07 volts times 2.43, we'll call it. So in the mid setting, we are drawing 31.7 or 32 watts. Cool, now we know. For any of you who are interested in purchasing your very own diesel heater, I have great news for you. Vevor sells them every day, and because I am affiliated with Vevor, there are links in the description below. If you use those links, it helps me out as I get a small kickback. There are also discount codes. Some of you have informed me that there have been problems with the discount code, so I have contacted Vevor and am trying to get that sorted out. Okay, I gotta go get the exhaust. Here. The fan on. Hear it running. Glow plug. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oop. We're not dripping fuel yet. What's going on? Speed 2. This one? Having the drip feed inside would be helpful. Yeah. I hope you guys are as thoroughly amused about this as I am. The heater is running. I know I haven't been doing much talking because it's taken a whole lot to get this sorted out. A whole lot of mental capacity. I don't want to keep my multimeter connection outside because that means I would have to stand with it outside in the freezing cold. It is minus 21 or minus 22 today. This way I can check the temperature from inside and see if anything is getting out of hand. I can also look out the window and see the drip rate. It probably should have been pretty obvious that the drip rate was going to be much less by taking the container down off of the shelf. However, I thought it would still run and I would just have to tweak it a little bit. It wouldn't run at all. It wasn't dripping at all from that difference. So I've had to reset it completely to get it to drip at about 100 drips per minute. We're somewhere in that range and running 228 Celsius on the heat exchanger. So what I'm going to do now is actually set up a second container. I wish I just had a bigger container with a siphon, or not a siphon, with a gravity feed hose connected to it, but I don't. So what I'm going to do is, this is a container that I've filled up with diesel, and because I have the lid sealed and a hose that goes all the way to the bottom of the container, I can now squeeze this bottle and the fuel will get pushed out through this hose. So instead of having to suck on this hose to create a vacuum to start the siphon, I can squeeze this, and then once the flow actually starts, I can then crack the seal on the cap and the siphon will continue as long as there is fuel in here. And this, of course, is lower than the level of the fuel. That's how it's done. That's how easy it is. I know there's going to be a bunch of people arguing with me in the comment section saying that this isn't going to work, but it does. Okay, this is my setup. Not very fancy, I know. Let's check the temperature. I can see the drip through here. I can count it out. We got a steady drip. It is definitely up around 100 per minute. Probably a little over. 232, 233 Celsius. Quasar is not happy. Alright, that is good. Because the battery is inside and nice and warm, I can use my tiny little lithium-ion battery. The charger is actually doing most of the work, and so it should be perfectly fine. For those of you who haven't seen the video, first of all, shame on you, go back and watch it. But the video where I ran this thing without a fuel pump, I actually ran it with the fuel pump first on the max setting and checked the drip rate, and it was about 80 drips per minute, almost exactly 80 drips per minute. And so I think the fan's turning a little bit faster, and that's why we're getting away with around 100. Now what I'm going to do is hook the multimeter up, and we're actually going to check the heat output. Alright, 200 Celsius. So it's dropped fairly substantially. The fuel rate definitely matters. About 5 drips a minute makes a substantial difference in temperature, and I have a feeling that with the current fan speed, if I let it run until it runs out of fuel, it might even cause a problem at lower fuel levels. What I'm going to try next, I almost don't want to try this, but I think I owe it to you guys and to myself to try it anyway. I'm going to top it up with fuel and see if that puts us off the charts on heat. I suspect that I will have to actually turn the valve down and reduce fuel just from the extra pressure, from the extra height of fuel. So all of my shenanigans with melting the snow, I was wondering where the water was going, and I just found out it's all coming over here. This is all ice now, and my extension cord is in underneath that ice. So I think my extension cord might be here till spring. Oops. I've got the two containers connected together, so we've burnt. For any of you who are doubting my siphon idea, it totally works. Hopefully the camera can pick this up. The fuel level is right here. All right, we're up to about 120 drips per minute. I think that's going to be a bit too much. I'm going to go inside and check the temperature of the exchanger. According to this, 268 Celsius. That's a lot. Despite it giving me a reading of 270 Celsius, the body of the heater isn't hot. I don't smell anything bad. I guess I'll grab my carbon monoxide meter and the infrared gun. All right, it says it's 61 Celsius on the body. It's all right, 0 carbon monoxide. Let's check to see what it is here. Okay, that's pretty high. We're at 112 drips a minute. That's on the high side. Let's check the carbon monoxide. Not nearly as bad. We are at 60 parts. Yeah, that still not great, but a lot better. That is a much more reasonable 236 degrees Celsius. What you guys just saw was 255 Celsius, which is 489 Fahrenheit. I don't know why the drip rate hasn't slowed. Looks like it might have increased, if anything. I know exactly what happened. What happened is the white jug siphoned into the black jug and made it even more full. That's what happened. All right, folks, it is Saturday evening. I'm outside turning the heater off. It's been running for almost 24 hours now, over 2 separate periods. This is my giant pile of snow that has been completely melted out. And you guys will notice that inside, there's actually a big pool of water. It is the following morning. It is Sunday morning, and I'm gonna fire this thing up, run you guys through the starting sequence. We have a giant pile of snow here that has been almost completely melted. I didn't show you guys, but I shoveled a path here to get this table and to get to my snowblower. And I made a giant mound of snow here, and as the heater was running, I kept piling it up there. And now it is hollow. This container is down to here. Okay, it is 1.5 liters. And this one is also 1.5 liters. Which proves they're working. There we have, you can actually see it on this one, that's at 1.5 liters. Let's go through the startup sequence and see how quickly it starts. It is fairly cold today, not super cold, but I guess I'll actually check to see what it is. All right, we're actually only at minus 11 degrees Celsius today, so that's not bad compared to what we have been having. Let's see. Make sure we got the fan turned on. Fan switch is a bit hard to get to here. Okay, so I can hear the fan turning. Don't know if you guys can hear that, probably not. And then we're gonna start the drip. Three, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. The glow plug is on. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 seconds and we have ignition. Don't know if you guys could hear that, but it is burning. I wish the number 2 fan speed wasn't as aggressive, because the switch over between 1 and 2 is a bit much. All right, I'm gonna try to open up the fuel a bit here. The reason why I wait a couple seconds is because you want the fuel, you want the fuel and the burn to transfer over to the, out of the glow plug area into the actual burn chamber. I think that is good enough. Let's speed it up. All right, setting. Got some smoke coming out. I overjuiced it a bit for startup on the fuel. We are making heat. As you guys can see, not the cleanest startup. It's probably my fault for letting it drip too long before turning it up to fan speed 2. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is set the drip rate with my phone. I'm counting it out here and I can see it's about right, but what I'm gonna do is let this run, go edit some video, go edit this video, and then come back and shut it down. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna pull it apart and look inside in this video. Maybe I'll ask you guys if you want to see what it looks like inside after this running and do another one. All right, that's 80 drips per minute. We're gonna increase it a bit more. I've got my carbon monoxide meter here, and you guys won't be able to see it because it's too bright and glary, so you'll just have to trust me on what it says. Let's put it in here. Okay, that's ridiculously clean. 15 parts per million. There you go, there's 10. That is ridiculously clean. I saw it go up to 17 at one point, but the exhaust is right here. Okay, we're gonna have to count the drops per minute really carefully, and if we can achieve this drip rate, that is really clean. 12, 13 parts per million, wow. That some of you are going to be really upset if I do this, and some of you are going to be really upset if I don't do this. I want to do it, so I'm going to do it. Build back better. I've now taken a few minutes to shake off the cold and will share my final thoughts on this project with you guys. And that basically is that you could do this in an emergency situation, but if you do it, you are going to want to monitor it extremely carefully. If you watched this video, you saw that the drip rate changed over time, and the drip rate had a substantial effect on the amount of heat the heater was making. and also the amount of carbon monoxide that it was producing, which means it is also making a substantial amount of soot inside of the exhaust and the burn chamber. Because there are now no safeties on this heater whatsoever, it is going to be your responsibility to keep an eye on it and make sure that it doesn't go into full thermal runaway or just shut off and then dump a whole bunch of fuel all over, well, wherever you have your heater. I ran this test for a total of about 23 hours, and in those 23 hours, it consumed a little over 8 liters of fuel. I don't have the exact time and I don't have the exact amount of fuel, but given those numbers, I would say that it has put out slightly more heat or slightly more kilowatts than it would have in the original factory configuration on setting, well, the max setting. Some of them at 6, some of them at 10. I don't have the exact numbers because I was freezing to death most of the time when I was running out and checking on the heater, and in between also editing videos. So hopefully you guys aren't too upset about me not having an exact number. If you are going to try this for yourself, don't just use the numbers that you heard me say in this video, because you are going to get drastically different results. If you decide to try this, get yourself a good carbon monoxide detector and also have some way to monitor the temperature of the body of the heater. Using those two things and monitoring the flow rate very carefully, you should be able to do this in a fairly safe way, but do not leave the heater unattended because that would be quite reckless. That's all I have to say for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.